All right, what's going on, Discharge Daddies? Belton here. Just giving a little update on the Discharge build we've been working on in Ancestor League. As well, we had that craft earlier on Standard. Pretty stoked about that. Hit the T1 life on that 5 charge ring. Making some nice progress on the Discharge build here in League as well. As a person who doesn't have a natural affinity towards POB, and also under the understanding that POB doesn't particularly work with the Discharge builds I put together. The guy who actually runs POB commented that on one of my forum threads one time. Just the interactions are too hard for it to recognize. So it shows up as Blade Vortex actually on PoE Ninja, which I've always found somewhat amusing. But nonetheless, I mean that as well as just habit from the earlier days of myself playing. I prefer to kind of put things together by trial and error. So we've made lots of changes over the past couple days. The one thing that has remained steadfast, though, has been this scepter. I've been posting a couple updates on the community section of the YouTube there as well. I think I made a video earlier on where we hit the power charge on crit. So just a little update on that. You can see here now we Exalt slammed the +2 to socketed fire gems, which is fantastic. That makes our discharge, since it is tagged as fire, cold, and lightning, we get the +2 there, and it means that we only have one mod remaining. In terms of what we're looking for here, it is one remaining prefix, our third suffix. As I mentioned in the first video discussing the idea or concept for the build, we're going to have the trigger mod from June there as the crafted one. So what we'd like to hit here, and the reason why we have cannot roll attack modifiers, is because that does block a significant portion of the potential outcomes. If you could see here, with respect to the base prefixes, our only options on an Exalt here are +1 gems or mana. With Elder, the only thing we can hit is Endurance Charge on kill. And with Shaper, we have a few more options, many of which are good for us though. Power Charge on kill, damage penetrates elemental res, gain elemental damage as extra chaos, gain fizz as extra fire, and gain fizz as extra lightning damage. What we would be looking for, really any one of these three would be fine. I do think that +1 to socketed gems is probably the most useful in terms of not only damage, but I think it gives some more utility as well, because we would get that would give +1 level to empower as well as +1 level to discharge. So it's basically +2 levels, but on top of that, it also slightly buffs all of the other support gems. The elemental as extra chaos is good. It's 15% damage. However, I do think that the veiled mod is better. It's quite difficult to get, but that is 99% spell damage with 5% or sorry, is it 5 or 10? 10% of non-chaos damage is extra chaos. So the trade-off there is you get 5% less extra chaos damage, but you get 99 spell damage. And I do think that that is by far and away the superior mod there. So that would be our, in terms of what we're going for, that would be our third best. The second best would be the Ellie Pen, which is 12%. Always great to get some penetration. Yeah, as I mentioned, our preference would be to get the +1 gems. In terms of overall weight or probability, it's going to take us 9 exalts on average with the cannot roll attack mods. And so you can see here, I've been able to pick up 16 Ikora's locks for roughly around a mirror today in League. And as well, I've spent quite a bit on the build, but I'll cover that after. So in terms of like the layout for this video, we're going to try and hit the staff here. We're going to go through that real quick. And then I will do a quick sort of demo build update. I'll discuss what I've changed while doing a map. Some people were asking to see a map the previous time, but do bear in mind that this is 30 hours into actually playing this. So it's definitely in its infant stages. And part 3, I'm going to show you guys the normal discharge build I play the past several leagues. The 100% chance to not consume. In some cases, like this league, it would be 99% chance to not consume. But archetypally and in terms of functionality, it is the same. So I've set that character up on standard just from my gear from a couple leagues ago. And so I'll pop over there and show you guys the differences as well, in case any of you guys are mutually discharged enthused. So yeah, with that being said, let's get into it. Oof, first exalt. This is extra fire. Oh yeah, we need to consider what we're going to change here. Camp Blessed Orb. What can we do here? Oh, we can remove the crafted. Well, now removing the crafted mod. Divine. Oh, I probably should have thought this through. I guess it's the same. It's the same either way. We're gonna have to use a divine. It's either removing the can't roll attack mod or putting divine. Oh, there's mana. Mana has a much higher weight than anything else. The mods that we're going for have a cumulative. This is presuming tier 1. Oh fuck. Tier 1 fizzes extra fire. Close. The mods, assuming tier 1, have a cumulative weighting. Oh, look at that. 13% cast speed, power, and endurance charge. For those of you who question why, sorry, this is another thing for you YouTube guys. A lot of people have been asking why, in particular as of late, I've put item sales for much more to vendors on most of my mirror items or high-end crafts. And that is because of Hinakora's locks. It's something I actually largely avoided in the past because I find it like visually cluttering. I don't like looking at it. I feel like it, especially when you see like endurance charge, frenzy charge, power charge, and then item sells for much more to vendors. I find it kind of like lowbrow. However, this league, because Hinakora's locks have been added to the game, it does allow you to have like the deterministic aspect of it where you can hover without having to commit to it. So because of that, the purpose of it, it comes from a gilded fossil, by the way. Item is overvalued by vendors, just a primitive resonator, and that. The point of it is that in a situation like this, as you can see, the natural implicit power and endurance charge, it adds a second implicit. So a Vol Orb, which only 1 in 4 times will add a single implicit, rather than replacing the power charge and endurance charge, it can replace the gilded fossil. Obviously, that makes it so that items cannot be mirrored, which is a bit a downside with any Vol item, but it does open some pretty wonky potential there. With respect to the staff as it sits, the best thing to get, there's 7% chance to get power charge on crit, which is a global power charge on crit. The way that power charge on crit gem and global power charge on crit work is slightly different, but I won't get into that now. Nonetheless, that is a very good one. Oh! Tier 2. But we ain't, as I said in the last video, boys. We ain't tier fucking 2. Fizzes extra fire. And our last one. Motherfucking mana. Bummer. Alright, well, there's a mirror down in League. It's a little unfortunate, but that's how she goes sometimes. What we're going to do now, just so I can show you guys the build and what kind of updates I've made. The Awakened, or sorry, not the Awakened Power, the Awakened Fire Pen, we're definitely going to swap out, most likely for Ele Pen, Anomalous Elemental Penetration. Other changes I've made, we did swap out our Forbidden Flesh and Flame, no longer using the, I'm blanking on the name of it because they've got such funky names with the Valakos. We decided to use the Aspect of Carnage, which gives the 40% more damage. We popped in a Elegant Hubris down here, and then we're also using Impossible Escape, which allows us to, anything that's within range of the keystone here, the small range here, we can do without having to connect to the small passives, which is great with Elegant Hubris because the downside of Elegant Hubris is that small passives do nothing. So being able to allocate those notables without having to sacrifice the points is fantastic. You can see here we've got 10% damage per power charge, 10% damage per endurance charge, 10% damage per endurance charge, and 80% armor. So with 11 endurance charges, that's 220% damage from that. And I think at the moment I have 9 power charges, so 310% damage and 80% armor. Couple other things, we put Inspired Learning down here. We did buy 2 one-passive voices. Those were about a mirror and a half together. Instead of running Purity of Elements, we popped out Storm Shroud, and we are running Chance to Avoid Being Shocked on one of our flash suffixes. As well, because I don't have, in this version of the Discharge I'm playing, I don't have a steady way to generate frenzy charges. I decided to pop in a double Grand Spectrum along with the Disciple of the Slaughter here. This also allows us to get to Charge Mastery, which gives us 3% increased damage for Endurance, Frenzy, or Power Charge, as well as some other minor buffs there. But that does make it so that our Frenzy charges are always at 5 out of 5. There is also, I'm blanking on the name of the Timeless Jewel, but there is a Timeless Jewel that converts, it makes it so you cannot generate Frenzy charges, but it gives Power charges 3% more damage. However, when you use that, minimum charges still work. So you can kind of double dip. In this case, that would, there's potential that that might be competitive, if not better. On top of that, I crafted some triple multi crit chance or quad multi jewels here. This one's got life. The Endless Misery is the same. Oh yeah, the Watchers we swapped up. This one's got Penetration with Zealotry, Armor with Determination, and minus mana with non-channeling skills. And yeah, I think that's all caught up there. One of the things I've been kind of teetering back and forth with as well, as you can see here, I tried to corrupt 50 pairs of Death's Door today, to try and get the double endurance charge, to no avail. However, I was having some problems generating power charges cleanly. We don't need to generate a buttload of them, since as long as we discharge a single power charge, we will be able to get all of our full endurance charges back. However, by putting on Inya's Epiphany here, you can see that it has the 25% chance that if you would gain power charges, you instead gain your maximum power charges. That is as well the elevated Warlord, the elevated mod for the power charge that you can get with Warlord's helmets. As you can see on this one, it is actually quite a good helmet. I'm going to have to do some stuff to sort of tweak it around, get rid of that mana. But I did get double elevated prefixes. So we've got the elemental damage with LE Pen, crit multi, and power charge with the max power charge. So 35% of the time now, when we gain a power charge, we'll get our max charges up. It's not going to be sustainable to the point, since we do discharge 4 times a second. We're not always going to be discharging with full charges with our power charges. However, it should deal substantially more damage. Also, obviously, we just went over this, but I did get the +2 to fire gems on there, which gives us, +2 level to discharge. We put on Charisma as the anointment. I will likely change that to a charge. Ice Golem, Precision, Assassin's Mark, Mark on Hit, Clarity, Faster Attacks, Phantasmal Leap, Fortify. Oh yeah, one of the things I was kind of, trying out today was whether or not it would be better to use Blade Vortex as a triggering skill or to use a melee skill. So I did actually try a variety of different melee skills. The reasoning or the line of thinking there being that if I use a melee skill to trigger, as long as it attacks more than 4 times per second in a single target scenario, clearing maps, it's not a big deal. You do get permanent Fortify as well. Blade Vortex is just so much cleaner though, so much easier as well. Having the power charge on crit, because when you have a 10 stack of Blade Vortex up, it does hit 10 times per second. So, the on-hit effects, like if you have Watchers with Vitality, Life Gained on hit, or ES on hit, or anything like that, that does make a big difference. But as you can see here, our cast per second on Blade Vortex are 6.5 casts per second. So that obviously very easily breaks our threshold there. So instead, we decided to swap over to Leap Slam, and we're using Fortify there. It's not the easiest to keep up full time, but it's also probably just because I'm unused to using Leap Slam. I tend to be a shield charge kind of guy. And we put in Haste as well. So right now we're running Zealotry, Determination, Haste, Precision, Ripper, and Immortal Call I threw in there as well. And yeah, that's it for the time being. Ice Golem. Yeah, the Ice Golem and the Precision largely are to give accuracy a chance to hit with the Leap Slam, just so we can get those fortifies in for an additional layer of some defense there. We'll do a quick map here just so I can show you sort of a little update on what it's looking like right now. Let's get some frags in there. don't actually think I have any. We can double up our beast captures actually. Fine with that. Yeah, unfortunately no compasses, but that's fine. Yeah, I'll just give you a rough idea. Alright, let's get down to it. So as you can see, I think the banner on the top might be blocking a clear view of the charge total. But the endurance charges are always at their max by virtue of how we have it set up. And the power charges typically float, if you watch it just visually, tends to float between 3 to 8. The AoE on this is significantly better, you might notice, than previous iterations that I've done with this. That really boils down to the helmet enchant. One of the downsides of using Endless Misery, ooh, the volume is really loud there. Sorry, turn the in-game volume down. One of the downsides to using Endless Misery, which is what allows us to discharge 4 times a second, is that you have 60% less AoE, not 60% reduced, but 60% less. So in the same way a more multiplier works, less works the inverse of that, right? So it does make Discharge, which has a base radius of 30. They changed the way that distance measurement works now recently. I haven't really caught myself up to those changes, so that number I'm mentioning now might be antiquated, but in the past it has been 30, and then for every additional charge that you have, you get 20% increased area of effect on top of that. Now, what is great about not doing the 100% chance to not consume, even though I would say objectively that's probably the better build, definitely offensively at least. One of the nice things though is that we can use this helmet enchant, the 0.5 meters to discharge radius. That used to read as +5 to discharge radius. Immune to fire damage, we can get rid of that. What is that? How do you, okay. These are a lot harder to, I just recently, put that skill point in. Oop. Oh, did not do a good job there. Good double click, sorry guys. There we go. Well, yeah, as you can see here, it's pretty smooth in terms of the triggering. It is quite tanky. We are regenerating 4,400 to 5,000 life per second. In terms of managing the mana, because the June crafted mod, as I'm sure some of you probably picked up on, does actually have 150% more mana cost. That isn't very difficult to deal with, though, given the fact that with the 25% Katarina Flask craft, assuming you have Mage Blood with the double increase effect, you're getting like what, 48 or 49% reduced mana cost there. On top of that, inspiration gives another what's that? So 40, 49, 59, 69, 79, 83%, and then you can also just take tirelessness here, which gives you another 9, 12, 15%. So just with those alone, you're pretty much covered. And then with the clarity minus mana, it is quite easy to tailor. If there's any specifics, like you do, sorry, this is maybe an important note. You do need discharge to cost some mana, right? Otherwise, it won't be able to gain. Otherwise, it will not be able to gain the inspiration charges, and without the inspiration charges, you do not get the buff benefits. So, see how we have these charges here? They have to be done with mana. So if you try to put on Eldritch Battery, for example, or cast with what's it called? Not arrogance. Life tap, anything like that, it will not work. Or if you have a 0 mana cost. Oh, it's not bad. Yeah, it will not give you those charges, which means you'll be missing out on 25% more damage and 40% increased crit. If you're really struggling, you can also, of course, use Divergent Inspiration. I find it fine with that. As well, sometimes I will use the life mastery with skills cost life instead of 30% of mana cost. I wouldn't do this in a different version of this build because it's 74 life going off 4 times a second is quite a drain. However, given the fact that we are regenerating just from the endurance charges being consumed vis-a-vis Kingsguard, that's 4,400 life a second for us. So we're still, plus 4,150 there. And on top of that, we have, their 200 life regen, some small amounts of leech, life beyond hit, that kind of stuff. So there are other ways to sustain. With respect to other defenses, right now I'm running about 77 max res, ailment immune, bleed immune, stun immune, chaos res cap. I'm actually not running at the moment. I didn't find it too super necessary while mapping. One of the things I was doing as well was just sort of swapping in the Aziri's Flask when I thought there was a map that would have a lot of chaos, or you could just swap in, it's always good to have a variety of different flasks, more or less. The Granite Flask there I do like because we have a large amount of armor scaling, 80% right there, plus we get 8% armor, and if I take that node, 13% armor per endurance charge, so that's another 143, that's 223% armor, 248, 263, 275. So you can see we have a lot of percentage armor scaling, but not an incredibly high amount of flat sources. So that was why I got the armor well affected by determination here, and why I also decided to put on a Granite Flask. Once we get all charged up, it's close to around 80 to 90,000 armor. Plus we have the endurance charges, which also do give us some of the chaos res there, even when we're not in that. We have a very high amount of sustain, and as you can see, the mobility is quite good as well. No issues to complain of there. And Immortal Call is a bit of a backup. Some of the things I've been kind of swapping in and out, which I would consider to be, more or less preferential at this point. Just none of these things are finalized, but Withering Step is something I've sort of dabbled around with. What else do we have in here? Of course, Purity of Fire when we were doing Galacos. Life Leech, faster casting. Right now I have increased area of effect. We can put in faster casting to even give, how much does it go to then? 7.69. That's a bit of overkill, but if you are using, because right here I don't actually have Unleash on here, because that doesn't, Spell Echo does increase your actual cast speed, makes you cast faster. Unleash just releases more blades. They both have their benefits, of course. For our intents, our purposes, having the cast is what is important because it is on skill use. This is the problem. Initially, I actually wanted to try doing this with Cyclone, and I forgot Cyclone is a channeling skill, and so there's some problems there. You can see here, though, if we swap onto just a pure Granite Flask, that's what, 15,000 armor, and we're getting that from about 130% armor there, right? 135%. 135% armor, and we have at least that much coming in just from the endurance charges. Another thing as well that I've noticed is that it's not super essential to have as much mobility or as much move speed I've found when using a Leap Slam. Again, I am relatively novice to using Leap Slam. I tend to highly prefer to use Shield Charge or on a bow character, of course. Blink Arrow and typically Flame Dash for myself. One of the things I swapped out here, you can see that we do have a Bleed Immune Flask on. Typically that was covered by Death's Door, but I did want to give some time and some weight to the Inyas just to test them out. Another thing that's like a glaring hole here is that my gloves and my boots, neither of them have enchants on them. The rings could be both corrupted. We're missing a prefix there. We have the wrong anointment on there. We still definitely have some work on that. For the belt, we can use Unnerve or Ailment Effect, or the gems aren't set up either. We're still just using Fire Pen. There's lots of things that can be fixed. A lot of this, because it is so spread out, a lot of it is actually relatively difficult to make decisions sometimes here. Arcane Potency, for example, I've dabbled in and out with that. Enigmatic Reach, 3% area of effect per power charge, but you also just get a base 24% AoE. Right here, for these 4 points, you get 100% crit chance and 40 or 50% multi. You know, coming down down in this area, the charge masteries, and even right here, right? Like you can get 10% chance to gain an endurance charge on melee critical strike. If you do want to try this out in some form or another, if you do run a melee trigger instead of using Blade Vortex, you could probably solely, if you have your attack speed high enough, and assuming you have crit cap, you could probably actually just fully run it off of that. This is also a very, very strong keystone as well, or notable, sorry. 60% global crit chance and 30% multi is very, very, very strong. And then, yeah, we've been dabbling in and out with aura effect and whatnot as well. So there's still, you know, lots on the go here, lots in works. One of the things I definitely should get back is Iron Will. You know, that's 65%, 70% spell damage, just for a couple of points. You can use a large, a very large, what's it called? String of right up right there to cover it. In terms of tattoos, sorry, that's another thing I forgot to mention. We're just using basic ones right now for the 4 attributes because Discharge does require 155 int, and haste, which I am using at the moment, requires 155 dex. I found switching the strength nodes to these pretty much covers all your needs there. And we do have that +1 endurance charge on a strength notable there as well. That is it in terms of tattoos at the moment. It is something that I will look into further. But again, you know, we're on day 2 of just sort of fiddling around with this guy and finding out what we like. So yeah, that's the little update on the guy now. It's definitely pretty tanky. I would say that it's going in the right direction. It does move quite quickly. It is, you know, a little bit sturdier than the other Discharge builds that I've done, perhaps, but the damage is notably lower. That is why I decided to put in the power charges higher there and swap in those Inyas. A lot of that, though, I'm sure I'll figure out. Proper gems and supports and you know, different ways to scale on the tree, crit multi and whatnot. All right, so now that I've showed you guys that, that's the update. Some of you were asking, you know, just maybe a frame of reference. This is the Discharge build that I created this archetype actually a few leagues ago in Sentinel League. 100% chance to not consume. This is very similar archetypally to how this works. So the basic premise of this, similar to the other one, is that we have the June mod, you know, trigger a socketed spell on skill use, combining with Endless Misery to override the cooldown of that. We then have Discharge in that one. However, on this version, we are using a one-handed weapon with Synthesis and with the Squire. And the purpose of this is to get our Divergent Discharge to at least 140% quality. The reason for that is that the quality on Divergent Discharge gives us, every 2 quality gives 1% chance that Discharge will deal its damage without removing its charges. Since the Helmet Enchant gives 30% chance, just flat out, you can think of it as 60 quality. And so the goal basically is to hit 140 quality. Now, there have been 2 leagues where this has been possible, and 2 leagues where you can get 99%. The 99% is not particularly noticeable, especially if you're playing as an Assassin, because Assassin has a power charge on crit, power charge on non-crit, and so the only time anything will drop, it will be from your Replica Ferals. But even with 99%, that means that's 25 seconds. Every 25 seconds, you'll lose partial charges, and you won't really notice, right? Unless it's at a boss fight, that DPS check is never really going to make a big difference. So if you are encouraged to try out Discharge, 99% to 100%. 100% is obviously better. Having that stability and consistency, you know, is definitely better, but it is not absolutely mandatory. Here are actually a few of the weapons over past leagues that I've made. So this was the original one from Sentinel League. And so you can see on this, by virtue of recombinators, I was able to get 10% quality of socketed gems on there, right? As well as the implicit 6% quality of socketed gems with +1 support gems. Moving on after that, though, we were in, I believe this was Sanctum League. I crafted this. You can see similarly, it has the +1 level of socketed support gems, 6 quality of socketed gems. However, we only are able to get the 8% quality of socketed gems on there as a bench craft. So we lose 2% quality. And in a second, I'll explain why that is important. This is the one that I made last league in Crucible, +1 support gems. That is the one that you need to have. It has to be on a one-handed like melee weapon. It can't be on a hybrid weapon, so not like a rune dagger or a scepter, because those cannot roll +1 to level of socketed gems. They roll +1 to level of +1 to level of all spell skill gems, and we need to have the +1 to level of socketed gems. And again, I'll explain why in a second. But yes, on this one we have explode, +1 support, double damage. The same explicits that are on the others. We do have the 8% quality, but what makes this one reach over the threshold is that it has the +1 to level of socketed dexterity gems with the crucible tree there. On top of that is a fun little bonus. It does get 60% multi, an additional link, level 10 area of effect, and it also gives, we lose 3 total charges, so -1 to max endurance, frenzy, and power, but we get 15% increased damage per charge. In this version of the build right now, I have, 5, 15, 23. This one only has 23 charges at the moment. I do have some versions that go as high as 34 charges, but even at 23, well, actually, I guess it would be 26 with it, and then it takes away 3. That's, 345% increased damage for one node, but very efficient. But yeah, so those are the different iterations here, and just some basic math on how that works and the core functionality. Divergent Discharge, you want to get that 21, 23. The 23 is more important than the 21 to begin with, and that is because of the quality to make it not consume. So after that, you're going to need to have as I mentioned, a one-handed like melee weapon. You want to get +1 support gems on there. If you're playing in the league right now and in Ancestor, you're going to need to get that 6% quality of socketed gems, 6% quality of socketed fire gems, cold gems, or lightning gems. Int gems will also work. I think, is there socketed AoE gems is one of them. Anyways, there are actually a lot of options because Discharge is multi-tagged, so the quality is not particularly difficult to get. In terms of third implicits, good ones, Explode is very good. Elemental Pen, crit multi, tier 1 is 27 to 30. Damage per frenzy, damage per power charge, double damage, spell double damage. There's quite a few good ones there that you can get in the third one. But if you're wanting to play this on somewhat of a budget, just get the +1 support, and then the quality as well you'll need to roll on there. But the quality, as I mentioned, is not particularly difficult. After that, what you're going to need to do, I actually have a video, sorry, you know what, I forgot about this. I do have a video on my channel called How to Craft a Weapon for Discharge, easily craft a weapon for Discharge. It's like 5 or 10 minutes long. I'm not going to go through that process right now, which was what I just found myself about to do. But I know people have a problem with how long my videos are at times. So if you want to know how to craft these, there is a video on the channel. But yeah, basically it is, you have your Discharge 23 quality, in power level 5 and awakened in power level 5 normally would be in there. I think I just put this in because I couldn't find my awakened in power. But yes, you can see awakened enhanced level 5, which gives, for every level above 1, it gives 8% quality to socketed gems. So right now it's level 5, right, with the corrupted +1. You can see here it goes to level 11, which makes it give 80 quality socketed supported skill gems. So we're now at 23 plus 80 is 103. Then we get the 8% from the quality of socketed gems from the Haku craft there. That puts us at 111%. And then you get the ashes, 30% quality of all skill gems, 141% divided by 2, 70.5. And because it's PoE, everything is rounded down. So that is 70% plus this, and that will give you the 100. So on top of that, yeah, the Empower, just because you have all that support gem buffing, normally this would be level 9, so you would have a level 31 Discharge in there. And then on the Squire side, we have the +1 to socketed gems, Awakened DOE, Divine Inspiration, Power Charge on Crit. You can change this if you'd like to Elemental Penetration. Depends what you're doing, right? On this version, I am using the Frenzy Charge, Power Charge, Spell Damage per Power Charge. I crafted this last league, and strangely enough, I actually crafted the exact same base the league prior, both of which were the first of their kind, but you can see here, Frenzy Charge, Power Charge, Spell Damage per Power, Frenzy Power, Spell Damage per Power, and then we actually have a second or third one, Frenzy Power, but this one's Cold Damage per Frenzy Charge. And in case you didn't see the video that I released maybe an hour and a half ago, We are working on the world first 5-charge ring that we hit a little while ago. I've spent 22 mirrors worth of Hinokora's locks to be able to exalt tier 1 life on there, which we are now done. So we have tier 1 life, tier 1 crit multi, 5 max charges, and then the Chimeria mod you need to craft because you can only get it naturally if you unveil it. Actually, you can get with the Recombinator too. And we're just missing the 1 mod. So we could even swap that in if we'd like. And you can see here now our charges are what, 10, 19, 26. But I will keep that out for the time being because I believe we need the minus mana. Yes, 2 mana. Perfect. Another thing we are doing in this build, again, sorry, we have, yes, so the trigger socketed spell use on the cooldown, which combines with Endless Misery to give Discharge a 250-millisecond cooldown always. Because it is on skill use, you don't need to worry about cast on crit, cast on channeling, on melee kill, any of that crap. Literally anytime you use any skill, it will cast Discharge. And what's great about this version is that your charges will never drop. Your Frenzy and Endurance charges are going to come from Replica Feral's Fur. As you can see here, you just put on the aspect of the cat. And it will rotate in such a way that you do not have to concern yourself with the timing on them. The flipping of the stealth to agility, you can see here, these are 30-second timers. They are not going to run out. Power charges are generated vis-a-vis Assassin here. Power charge on crit, which is a global power charge on crit. Power charge on non-crit. We also have, power charge on kill. Plus, we have, power charge on crit the gem, and we have it on Blade Vortex as well. The skins you'll see here, it might be a little bit confusing. I just put those on there for a little bit of throwback retro look. These are Hands of the High Templar. I would actually normally be using Surge Binder gloves here. I just couldn't find them, but these are quite good as well. And then we've got Dark Ray Vectors with +1 Endurance Charge and Suppression on them. Dark Ray Vectors are fantastic. Playing the 100% chance to not consume as Assassin, you're actually going to have more Frenzy charges than anything else naturally, because Swift Killer gives you +2 to Frenzy charge. As well, Dark Ray Vectors give you that additional one there. So our base level of Frenzy charge is 10, 11. If we ran, some of my rings have 2 Frenzy charges, so we can add 3 more, so that'd be 14. And you can add an additional charge here, 15 Frenzy charges. You could use a tattoo, 16 Frenzy charges. But what's great about the Dark Ray Vectors, again, more of an offensive option. They give 5% move speed per Frenzy charge, so with the 10 charges we have right now, that's 50%, as well as 10% evasion rating globally, which is 100% evasion rating. That is obviously going to combine quite well with the 4% right there, so it's actually 14% per Frenzy charge. And so keeping those up is quite important. But one of the things with Discharge that's always kind of difficult is, working with ailments, finding out which way to balance things. Do you want to have power, for fire, cold? You could run Trinity, whatever. As of Sanctum League, and obviously this was reiterated this league, you can run Original Sin. This Original Sin is absolutely bonkers because it's got Bleed and Zealotry, which is literally perfect for this. But Original Sin, obviously Discharge has a vast amount of damage. It scales off your max charges. This makes it so that all of the power frenzy and endurance doesn't matter. They all get converted to chaos, so you don't have to worry about that as much. You got the aspect of cat up here with power charge. One of the cool things about using Original Sin is that you can use Blizzard Crown without any concern for the downside. Blizzard Crown has a tremendous amount of average cold flat damage. The downside being that you have to worry about higher base cold resistances max res on your enemy side. Discharge has a damage effectiveness multiplier of 600%. So if a Blizzard Crown gives, let's say, 150 average cold damage, Discharge actually gives you 900 average cold damage, which then gets converted to chaos, and so the downside is nil. Plus, it solves any problems with Reflect. I personally prefer using this. However, of course, completely optional. You can swap in a Calandra's Touch there as you wish. Shield Charge, you can run this as a bow build. I personally never ever do, because I think that it is an abomination to not have Shield Charge, as it is in my opinion, the best mobility skill in the game, because it scales off of a variety of things. the local attack speed of your weapon, base attack speed, and your global attack speed things, as well as your move speed. So you can see here that right now we have 247% movement speed, and that's without any in combat buffs. Again, this is sort of just mismatched together here. I definitely do have better gear lying around, but that's the basic explanation for it. Mage Blood goes without saying what that's there for. I actually don't even know if I have. Do I have jewels in? Yes. Okay, I still have clusters in. That's great. Jewels are one of the big ways that you will scale with Discharge. By the way, a lot of the time people overly focus on things with pertaining to the gear. Because you pretty much in every Discharge build are running a skeletal form around the tree to try to access charges, you get an exceptional access to large cluster jewels and jewel sockets in general. You can see here, this I know for a fact this character used to have multiple one passive voices on them. I think I sold them to so I could craft the Low Thunder bow the other week, which is why some of these. Oh, look at that! It's completely empty. Do I have Swift Killer? Forbidden Flesh and Flame, Inspired Learning, Forbidden Flame, Storm Shroud. Okay, we do have that in. All right, that's good. We can throw an A jewel in there quickly though. Let's find one. Jewels are never a far shot away. Oh, there we go. Quad multi. Oh, there. Quad multi plus multi synth. Take that. This is one of the great things too. If you want to scale damage, because Discharge is tagged as Fire, Cold, and Lightning, you can get upwards of you can get 18, 66% crit multi on a single jewel. Plus, if you want, you can also get the Synthesis Implicit, which I believe you can get 4 and 5. So 75% multi on a single jewel. So a one passive voices can be 225% multi. It's pretty bonkers. One of the great combos too, before we jump into map, I could show you this, just what it looks like archetypally again. Impossible Escape, if you're going to be going the Assassin route. Impossible Escape plus Elegant Hubris off of Supreme Ego. You can see here 10% damage per Frenzy Charge, 80 spell damage, 10% damage per Frenzy Charge, 10% damage per Frenzy Charge. Frenzy Charge on hit if you want up there. Avoid being shocked, which works really well with Storm Shroud too. Just a really great location for it here. Another 80% spell damage if you want. But yeah, just even having the 10%, 10%, 10%. In a typical build, I'd have usually about 13 or 14 charges, so that alone is 420%. Plus, you can get the Dagger Mastery up there and get Culling Strike, which is always nice. Endless Misery up on the top. I personally always try to sneak in Inspired Learning into any build I'm playing. I haven't used Headhunter in years now, so having just the buff in battle or in maps, if you're going to go do Ubers and stuff like that, obviously you can take it out and swap the points, but I think it's pretty much always worth it, at least for quality of life, as insofar as I can see it. You can see here we've got ES on hit and life gained on hit on our Watchers. That's just another form of sustain along with Leech. When we're going with the pure chaos conversion one, again, I'm not going to waste your guys' time and look through all these, but I know in the league itself I was running void manipulation there because again it is all chaos. Right now we have awakened AoE. One of the alternate qualities, oh, is that it? One of the alternate qualities on void manipulation is that it can get leech, which is a nice easy way. Discharge does so much damage that it's you're never gonna have any problem hitting the leech cap anyways. But defensively, we got like 20k armor, obviously LE weakness cap, ES, a lot of ES on hit, ES regen, bleed immune, element immune, stun immune. It's not super tanky, and again, this is sort of a haphazardly sort of thrown together version. Just grabbed whatever was kind of lying around. In particular, the helmet is distressing to me because I have here's a double charge helmet. For example, 2 power charges here. This one has the aspect of the cat, but it does not have the this doesn't have the right helmet enchant on it. Again, I just didn't want to look around. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that I have 3,300 tabs in standard in my remove onlys, and a great deal of them are filled with with a variety of discharge items from over the years. So I'll spare you guys the headache of that. I don't really actually even know where my maps are. It's fine. What's a good layout? Shit. Sorry, guys. I probably should have prepped this a little bit better before making the video. For those of you who are still watching. Man, I literally have no maps in standard. That's crazy. Alright. Oh, do I have a tree assigned? I do. Okay. Mobs, boxes, ball items. Fuck boxes. Ooh. Yeah, that works. Alright. So we'll get down to it. Sorry for the long explanation there. I'm sure some of you guys probably just wanted me to see me shut the fuck up and jump in the map. Twitch people as well. I know I haven't addressed you in a while, but just for posterity's sake. As you can see though, the mobility is quite exceptional. And I don't have my flame dash on right now, and I am... Yeah, you know when you get into like a motor habit or a routine of having things in certain places? It's like I always have flame dash or, you know, a mobility skill like blink arrow or leap slam where you can jump over terrain on my E button. I was just smashing that for a second trying to get over the waterway here, and realized it was on leap slam, or sorry, on shield charge. So I'll slow it down for you guys for a sec just so you can see what's going on in live time here. So you can see we've got all of our charges, right? And look at that, I can just stand still. If you look at the discharge icon here, you can see how often it's casting, and you can see our charges are not dropping. You can see the AoE is quite strong. And again, we are choosing here to use, we're only running 27, 26 charges. To run this all the way up to about 34, 35. I know that some people have been commenting on my YouTube, and some people come and stream and occasionally ask this, you know, why I don't use badge and stuff like that. And without being diminishing, but just speaking the reality of the situation, I don't want to say it's like a poor version of the build, but these builds have been tailored specifically, like items have been crafted for them to play this. You know, as a baseline to do the 100% not consume, you need a 23 quality divergent discharge, a level 5 awakened enhance, squire, mage blood, ashes, and a 30 you know, a 30% not consume helmet. Like it's not a cheap build. This is something that's kind of a passion project for me. I played Discharge literally every league for like 11 years. So you know, my motivations for doing so are extraneous to potentially what others might be. Oh, I don't have any goddamn portal scrolls. But yeah, it's just, you know, for me, it's a love of the skill. Back in the day, I remember doing gorge rotations and no Mjolnir when people would be looking for groups because maps couldn't sustain themselves in like the global 1 channels. And I just thought that was so cool that there was a skill that was so OP that people barred it from their groups because it would literally crash them because it was doing so much damage. Hopefully you can see here, for me, I get very strong vibes of like the old playstyle, sort of thematically, or like a motif, I suppose, of the builds that I have. Like Discharge is not going to be the best all around at anything. It's not an S1 skill. If you want to make a super gimmicky, like cast on death discharge character, or one of those like fucking Ralakesh swap things, look, all the power to you. but those come with limitations, and I think that being honest with oneself, um, people don't really want to walk in with a staff, kill themselves in a boss twice so they can farm an Uber and just die 120 times an hour. I also don't think people like swapping out their gear like that. I do think, without a shadow of a doubt, that this is the superior S tier version of Discharge. But again, I'm not that naive or self important to think that people are going to be willing to put in this level of investment, currency, or time into understanding it. It is interesting as well too. When I started playing PoE, we didn't have Path of Building. We didn't have all the different crafting currencies and stuff. Like, there was no Craft of Exile. There was no POB. There was no fucking. You couldn't look up any of this stuff. Even when you held Alt on an item, it wouldn't tell you what the mods were. Right? You just had Exalts, Scours, Alts, Augments, Chaos. There were no annuls. And even if you wanted meta mods, actually, you had to farm master rotations for like 2 weeks just to get prefixes couldn't be changed. In any case, though, back then, because itemization was significantly more difficult to obtain, you had, like, when you found something that was really good, it wasn't like this funnel in approach, this inverted funnel approach where it's like, okay, what are the applicable skills I could play? All right, even though there's a million available, there's only 3 that are really available, and then people kind of look like that, right? When I first started playing, it was the opposite. It was like, if you found a cool item, because they were so hard to come by and so hard to make yourself, it was like, oh, dude, what's something cool I could make with this? I think one of the great things, and this is sort of funny thinking about the evolution of the game, Mathel was probably the one who popularized. There were other people that were doing different iterations, but who popularized the Fakener build, which I'm sure many of you who played around that time did play. And it's funny, actually, because Fakener was meant to be a cheaper version of a unique heavy build. And it's quite funny now, I think, playing PoE, that any build that's hyper unique heavy tends to be considered pretty entry level. But back then, Mjolnir, Shavs, Aziri's Acuity, what else was part of it? Devotos, Saffles. A little bit further on, you had Skyforth, and Death's Door was even after that. This has just always been, Doriani's and Headhunter. It was just a very, Ramirez. What else was there? It's just been a build that's been very close to home for me, I guess, in short, over the years. To me, it's like the most quintessential PoE skill. Like every video game that I can think of has like a fireball or has like a cyclone type skill, right? But the mechanical interaction of what charges are and how discharge works, I think is something that is truly PoE. Because it's complicated as fuck, very nuanced and very hard to understand, but it's incredibly rewarding once you do, and that's what's kept me playing it over the years. And it's very highly customizable as well. Don't I know people are going to ask me for a POB. To restate this again, the guy who makes and updates POB, let me know on that Discharge forum post I made that Path of Building cannot recognize the multiple interactions that I have going here. Right, because we have the trigger from the June mod, we have the Endless Misery, we have the Squire interaction, we have the cooldown being dictated by a skill in another item, we have the Chaos conversion, we have the charge generate, you know what I mean? We have the aspects swapping out, we have the 100% chance not consume. There's just too much going on. So in fact, if you actually go look up this character on PoE Ninja, I'll show you as quick proof here. It'll register it as a Blade Vortex build because it's incapable of reading it. Oh, look at this! It doesn't even register a skill. Okay, does not register a skill. That's pretty funny. Anyways, though, that is the build there. Again, this is not perfectly tweaked out in any way, but just to show you how it kind of plays. Looking in Hideout here, it is pretty fun, I'm not going to lie. You can just sit still, and look at that. Just permacasting. Hell of a time, baby. One of the great things about Discharge, too, though, as I mentioned, it's kind of like a skeletal tree, so you're going to scale largely off of flasks vis-a-vis Mageblood, off of auras, because you have access to charisma and to influence and to sovereignty. Not to mention you can put in small passives like the 6% mana reservation I-84s. And you can run anywhere from 5 to 10 auras, defensive, offensive. If you want, you can make your jewels, put it in one passive voices, and you can run 225 multi, or you can run something super defensive. You can put in megalomaniacs, pop up some suppression, or explode, or whatever it is that tickles your fancy. There's really lots of ways to customize it yourself. And I actually really enjoy playing it at the beginning of a league because all of the stuff that Discharge prioritizes is shit that people normally get later in the leagues. So nobody thinks about it early on, right? Think about that. +1, like charge corruptions on things, right? Like +1 power charge helmets, or +1 endurance charge boots, or synthesis rings with power charge or endurance charge or frenzy charge, or precursors, or quad multi-jewels, or things like that. Like these are not things that typical builds are going to be thinking of off the bat, but because Discharge scales off of these things, not only does it serve you well because you're getting what you need early on, and not many other people are competing, but also the rest of the market has an inverse relationship with these items typically, so that playing Discharge tends to be an investment in of itself. I quite frequently will buy 2 or 3 one passive voices in the first week for like 50, 60 divines and sell them like a week and a half or 2 weeks later for like a mirror or 450. The ring, like, Discharge, power charge rings, like 20, 30 divine synthesis, sell them for 250 divines a couple weeks later. And there's lots of other ways that works as well, quad multi-jewels in particular too. In any case though, this video ran a little bit longer. I can see it's just under an hour now, so I will keep it. I'll make sure we don't surpass that threshold. But yeah, this is my Discharge build. This is the I have a video on my YouTube channel called the Kosu Chaos Discharge. It is pretty much this from Sanctum League. The mechanical interactions are the same. Some things are changed here and there, but the overall function of it is the same. There's also this build guide here. If you just Google Belton Discharge 100%, this will show up. Again, this was written in Sentinel League, but if you want a really fine understanding of how all of this works, I spent several hours writing this when I did, writing it out point by point by point, how it works, how do you generate charges, how do we sustain costs, blah, blah, blah. I put a great deal of love and effort into this, and while it is outdated in terms of patch, the function is very much still at its core similar. So maybe give that a read if you're interested, and if not, go ahead and ask me any questions you'd like. I will be, for the foreseeable future at least, playing some Discharge in the league, and in particular going over to Standard occasionally to craft that ring. Hopefully finish that up soon, because it is already the undisputed best charge ring in the game, probably the rarest ring in the game as well, I would say, actually, without question. But getting that finished up, I think, just as a matter of personal pride and love of the skill would be important for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know it was probably a little bit longer than you were anticipating, but I can hear actually my DoorDash guy knocking on my door. So looks like he took a cue from Twitch chat and did not read my instructions. So anyways, with that being said, YouTube, take care. Have a great weekend, and I hope you all are having a fun league. Peace.